And I'm gonna try to go on YouTube as well.
Can you see our laptop in the frame
No.
of the video? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you guys have any questions or anything before we go live? You
We're
look
live.
good, by the way.
We're
Thank
live.
you.
Okay, so we are live. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I am excited because we have Valentine's on next week, and I have been really, really having these deep discussions with men and women about relationships. And I know I'm single. I have a lot. I'm not going to say that. I have a lot of friends that are married, and it's like the married. I don't know what I would call it. The anointing for marriage seems that to be going over my head. And now that I am in a season of I want to be married, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what is going on out here. But I have heard, I want you guys, first of all, to introduce yourselves to the audience and let them know who you are. And we're going to get right into it because you guys have been married, and I've heard that your marriage is awesome. So,
hallelujah. Okay, well, my name is Delmisha Richards, and this is my husband.
Oh, Ivan Richards.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would want to talk, because I could talk. I mean,
Okay.
I have y'all in all my business.
Look, I want to know, how did you guys meet? How did y'all meet? How long you've been married?
Yeah, we met online. We met online on blackplanet.com. And it's nostalgic for me. But Black Planet, back in 2005 or so, it had been, everything was within a year. And that was it. And this was the beginning of my salvation. I just gotten saved in 2002. So I was zealous. I was one of those zealous Christian women. I remember my profile on Black Planet. I had Marvin Sapp playing in the background. The top my page said, "You are on holy ground." It's like, because I needed to weed out, all the knuckleheads. I needed people to know, when you come to my profile, like, this is who I am and this is what I want to deal with,
Yeah.
And that kind of gives a little bit of glimpse into who I was then, And one just randomly popped up and was like, "Hey, what's," like a very casual, "Hey, how are you?" or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it
was no specifics. I had messaged her because I was intrigued by her page. I remember like reading her information, and nothing was off-putting about how she expressed her faith. She didn't seem really like I don't know, she seemed normal. There was even a point on the page where she mentioned that she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And typically what you associate with stay-at-home mom is the woman don't work. She ain't doing nothing, and so on and so forth. So but I didn't have any bad feelings about that. I was like, man, this is really interesting. She's clear about what she desires for her relationships, what she desires to do, her focus being her home, children, her husband. So it was pretty cool. I was smitten from day one.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, like, the first thing I needed to do was I went to his profile to see what he looked like to make sure he was a little cute. And he was. So I was like, "Oh, okay." And a beautiful friendship evolved. And it's like, I remember, like, I had this process of, promoting him, like, we're strictly on Black Planet through their system. Like, it was like an inbox system. And as I got more and more comfortable and he, showed himself to be who he is, then we went to Messenger, or
Sure.
yeah, but then we went to Messenger, and then we were able to talk on the phone, and you know what I mean? So, and I remember years later, Ivan was saying, finding someone online and dating from online, it's the quality of the people that will determine the quality of that dynamic and that relationship. And but also it was completely God-centered from the very beginning. It was completely God-centered. Yeah.
Oh,
Any
wow.
follow-up? Was that it?
So I can go on.
Because she'll
So
keep
let
going.
me ask you a question. Because I have experienced dating sites. I have I've been on Christian Mingle, and to me that was one of the worst sites for it to be a
Oh,
Christian.
really?
Like, yes. I've been on Black Planet, but I get on and then I get off. I get on and I get off because I've always felt this conviction. And I don't know, I'm not gonna say it's the Lord. I think it's just my pride about getting on there, right? But I've heard really great stories. So how long were you on there before you two met each other? And then what was your experience as far as meeting other people before you guys met each other?
Yeah, because I remember, because I'm like, as I'm going through my memory bank, like I recall, like I've met, well, Black Planet is not just, for dating, right? Kind of like Facebook. So I met some of my closest, well, one of my closest friends, Asia, I met her. Tish, I met her. I did come across, a few gentlemen, and there was like that, it's in the dating scene, going out, kind of testing the waters. Actually, and at the time, I actually struggled with sexual sin. And every time that was entered into, then it was a wrap, right? And so it got to a point where it wasn't until I remember so clearly when the Lord was saying, because I really wanted to be married. I desired it. And I wasn't desperate for it, but I desired it. Because I wanted to have sex too, you know what I mean? But and I knew within the confines that it was appropriate. Because at the time I was a part of a holiness church, and I appreciate that foundation because holiness is right. That is God's standard, and I held to that standard, but I struggled, right? And so I remember when God said, "The man I send you will not defile you," and at that moment, like it was a wrap. Like I understood the standard by which I would need to measure every male from that point forward. And like even if when meeting a gentleman, if I felt like there was a chance that he would fall with me, even if he didn't mean it or intend it, but even if he felt like he could, if I felt like he could, then it was a wrap. Because God was very clear. The man I send you, he will not defile you. And I needed that. I needed the man that God specifically had for me. That was my desire and my prayer. Who do you have that's specific for me? And there were even a time where actually we were friends still, where I got into another relationship because I thought that's who it was. And because we fell into sexual, and he was wanting marriage. He used marriage as a little bit of a carrot. But he was a good guy, beautiful Christian man, you know what I mean? But when we fell into sexual sin, it was a wrap. And again, God is like, all we gotta do is just be mindful and just go to him, right? And he, again, clear as day, is not your husband. Use his name, is not your husband. And I was in love, right? And it was hard, but I remember I was at work and I had to go take a walk so I could let go because he's not my husband. So there's no reason for me to keep wasting my time with this person. I want who God has for me. And it was a difficult situation, but I remember telling him, like, don't call on me, don't check on me. I need you out of my system. I need all this to be deaded. And there's no hard feelings or anything like that, but I need a clear and clean break, you know? So there was a lot at least for me. I was living in DC at the time. And then, and so we're now friends, and he's like the first male like friend that I ever had that was really like platonic. I knew there was an interest. I knew he was interested in me, but he was living in New Orleans. I'm living in DC. I want to be married. I don't want no long distance relationship. So it's not going to work. And he was adamant about not leaving New Orleans. And I was like, well, we can't have no
Adamant.
we were. He wasn't trying to leave. He was working at the law firm. And
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question. Okay, so it's so much in what you've said. So you guys met for one. So I didn't know that website was. I thought it was just for dating. I didn't know you just met people.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like Facebook, or at least
Back then.
Yeah,
This is like 20 years ago, like early or somewhat in the middle of the Black Planet like surge in popularity. I think it has gone through many phases as it tried to stay relevant, but back then it was just like a It's like a social site. It's like
Mhm.
Facebook.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you guys met. But were you on there in the beginning looking for a mate, or were you guys on there just looking to socialize?
Yeah, it was both. I remember like creating my profile with in my mind with the intention of meeting whoever could like I think I did have a desire to possibly meet who I could get into a relationship with. I don't know if that was like my outward intention. I think that may have been something that was on the inside. But
Mhm.
I'm an extrovert, textbook extrovert. I'm very people centric. I love people, so I'm pretty sure that that extroversion is one of the reasons why I'll talk to anybody. I'll talk to everybody. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And did and
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I guess a thing to put into perspective is we've been married for a very long time, and we met when I was 22 and she was 25. So
Mhm.
the outlook on life is a little bit different when you're that age. It's not
Mhm.
as serious. It's kind of getting serious, and
No,
you're
no, I
like,
was serious. I was serious. I was already in my career.
that's true about
I
women.
wasn't. I
Y'all
wanted.
kind of settle down a bit into seriousness before us.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. True.
That's fine.
Yeah.
More mature than like I guess the average 22-year-old. Because I'm 3 years older than him. And I was like, wow. Like sometimes it still hits me. Like, yeah, I'm older than daddy,
You old, man. Old.
but he's still a leader.
That is
I don't
funny.
think I wasn't on the site with intention for dating. I feel like I was always looking for a certain caliber of woman in any area in which I saw women. I like to joke and say if my friends wanted to go to like the club or something like that, I wanted to meet the girl whose friends also made her go to the club. Like I didn't want to meet the chicks who was in there on the regular. Like
Yeah.
I'm good on y'all.
Yeah.
No shades. I was straight. I was straight. I was good money. So, it was intentional from a social standpoint, but I don't know if I was like you said, it's kind of like a little bit of both. A
Yeah,
little bit of both.
yeah. And I
So I want
appreciate
to
that
get
time.
into the so you guys are friends at this
Yeah.
point, but when you said that you went and dated someone else,
Hmm.
what were you thinking as the man that is interested? What was your thoughts on that?
So the I almost want to say the wonderful thing about me,
It is.
I I had basically so I never really found much interest in being around dudes, even though I had guy friends and things like that. But it's like I was always interested in being around a girl like that. Y'all are fantastic. So I had a lot of genuine friendships. Not I shouldn't say a lot. I had a handful of genuine friendships with women.
Mhm.
Um, and I could even be interested in, I mean, just in terms of being an adult about it, like we could even be intimate and I could still be good friends with you. It was like, I never
You're gonna have to
understood.
explain that. Hold on.
I
You're
know
gonna have to stop right
that's a touchy subject these days.
Mhm.
I was actually just talking with somebody about that today because, okay, so I can exist in a space where I'm attracted to you, and I'm interested in you, but we don't have to be in a relationship. You know what I mean? It's like I can guard myself. I have great self-discipline and so on and so forth. It's like so I'm not harassing you or anything like that. But
Mhm.
let me say it like this. I've been intimate with good friends before.
Really?
I
Okay.
don't know how to,
So I don't even know how that works. I don't even know how that works. So being intimate with a friend and still being able to be friends and taking the intimacy part back so you can remain friends because women normally don't have a good track record of being able to be intimate on a regular basis with a friend without
okay.
wanting more.
So let me try and
Mhm.
clarify. Um it was a situation where we were in relationship, but just not official relationship. The friendship was the relationship we were in. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? It's like
I do.
Like
I do.
casual sex, basically.
I don't know if it's casual because there was something authentic about it.
So
You know what I mean?
friends with
Like
benefits.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm so
Friends with
odd that I couldn't put it in the same box as what most
typical.
people
Yeah.
put it in. So it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough. For example, I was able to be genuine friends with Dell while also being interested in her and letting her know that I was interested in her. But it's like I was able to put up that wall, like that's my friend. Like genuinely, whether I'm fond of her, she's attractive, she's
Mhm.
smart, so on and so forth. But that's my friend, point blank, period. And until we got into a space where we're now more than friends, then I feel like I act appropriately with great discipline and actually being okay with it. It's like I guess I can compartmentalize really well.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
And so was the friend? How did she handle it?
Like she was on the same page. Who I'm thinking of, probably on the same page. Huh?
how did she handle it? Not so let me also say there's not a plethora of women that I've been intimate with. So it wasn't like I was just out here in these streets. uh with all of this casework, all of this case studies to pull from. Uh, I think that okay, let me say this. I feel like in the way in which I moved before I was married, um, there would be genuine interest there, but then the relating aspect of it just wouldn't work out. And then we continue to be friends. It would be something like that. So I feel like in some ways you probably could have called us being in a relationship, but it wasn't that. And I don't think it was that for them either. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, he's cool. I like him. We talk, we chat, we spend time together, we may go out, have a bite, so on and so forth. Um,
Yeah, it
and
feels like casual. It's like casual. I mean, I understand why you're trying to make a distinction because what it is today
Mhm.
is not what it was. You know what I mean?
right.
So I get it.
So far from
I
it.
get it. Because what's
Well,
interesting is I was in this relationship with this guy while me and Ivan were still friends, and continuing to evolve within our friendship, talking pretty much every day on well, not while I was with
Yeah,
him.
not while she was in a relationship.
Yeah. Because I'm looking for marriage, you know what I mean? But when that was over, then I don't remember intentionally coming back to or opening the doors. Do you remember like how that happened?
I mean, I remember y'all breaking up. So I feel like in friendship mode, we went
Just
back to
remain friends.
talking and stuff like that. So
Yeah. And there was another Ivan in my life at the time too. And I remember yet again, and I was just in praise and worship in the privacy of my little apartment. Um, and it's funny because I remember being up against the wall. I don't know why I was pointing a wall, but I was up against the wall on my knees with my hands up and just out of my spirit bubbled, Ivan is your husband.
mhm.
And it was just so random because that's not what I'm literally worshiping. I'm talking about how amazing and wonderful you are and how much I love you and so on and so forth. And in the quiet of my mind to begin thinking about what next to say, I feel like it was the first experience I've ever experienced. Ivan is your husband. And so
Mhm.
I immediately like processed that. And I remember becoming sad and upset at the same time because I thought God was talking about this other Ivan. Again, didn't even consider him like the most stable friend throughout my life at that time. I still hadn't considered him because of the check boxes, and the main check box was proximity. You're not even in DC, and I'm not coming down to DC. I mean, I'm not coming down to New Orleans, so it doesn't even seem possible. And so
Mhm.
now I'm like grappling and wrestling with the Lord for like weeks because I'm thinking he has committed me to this other Ivan who was a good he was an interest until I found out of his like sexual struggles. And him being a leader in the church at the time and whatnot. I just was kind of disgusted, not because he was just out there just wilding. Like it was a like it was for me. It was a struggle. Like he was contrite after it happened. It's like he was asking God to take it away from him, and he would confide, within our friendship. But I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't want him. I'm saving myself. I'm celibate. Um, you know.
I remember talking to you, kind of came to me. She would throw around the word betrothed. And I'm like, shut up. Yeah.
Released me from that was I remember one of my last conversations with him. he had mentioned how he had asked the Lord for the hand of the woman that he is married to now. He had asked the Lord if he can have this particular woman in marriage, and it was popping. And I was like, oh, word, congratulations. You know what I mean? And it was like, you know what I mean? Like such a relief, you know. And then finally, that distraction, I was able to set my eyes on like, oh, you're Ivan, you know.
I don't think you had a revelation. I think I brought it up. I was like, you ain't never think about me. Like, whole other Ivan out here in these streets. Never crossed her mind. Never.
But like just so I can, yeah, because again, you weren't in DC. And in comes Hurricane Katrina. And I remember in that experience, like just the phones being down and me being like nervous and concerned, and he would call, pretty regularly. I like saying he was homeless because he was homeless. He was in the ninth, and he had watermarks up the ceiling and all the things. All he owned was stuff that was in his duffel bag. That was all he had. So yeah, like living in or staying in the gymnasium of a school.
Okay. Get how you feel about it.
Like, and I remember letting him know, I was like, hey, if you want to come to DC, I'll house you temporarily until get on your feet, so on and so forth, and go ahead and do your thing. And it's again still not romantically interested in him, just for his benefit and for his his best interest. He was like, I'll think about it. And 1 or 2 days later, he was like, you agreed. And even in him saying I'll think about it, there was a feeling in that I knew that he really just had to think about it. You know what I mean? Like, because there was no manipulation or anything there, but it was something that he would really have to consider because life is different now. So I was happy about that.
I wanted to swing back just really quickly because something came to me about this idea. It's like in the truest sense of the word, like even when I was younger in high school, I learned a lesson of not running behind no woman, no girl who wasn't interested in me. So it's like if you're not interested, that's enough for me. Like I ain't running behind you. So if we friends, then we friends, and that's what it is. It's like, all right, yeah, I think you're cool. I'd be interested, but if you're not interested, then good morning. All right.
Yeah, you're that way. Yeah, but you were different with me though.
Yes. Yes.
When did it change over for y'all? When did y'all finally get to the place of saying, okay?
It was like a blink of an eye. If you
I
ask
think
me.
it was the proximity. I think the proximity is the thing that was the block for her. So when I decided to fly up to DC, and we met for the first time, we were still kind of like friends, but then I think it became a situation where it's like, okay, so we could actually do this. This is like you here now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I entertain this. And then we
all the light bulbs went off. And it was just boom, boom, boom. Came up, was here, and I was like, okay, well, I'm okay with getting into a relationship now. And we were in a relationship. I had to travel for my job. So we were in a relationship for 30 days. And then we began having discussions about marriage. And I already heard the Lord, but I went forth with asking for another confirmation. I was like, get your confirmation, got his confirmation. And because of the confirmation from the Holy Spirit, it was like, okay, well, we don't even need to like go forward traditionally, so I remember.
What do you mean when you say that? You gotta clear that.
Like getting engaged and having all the fanfare surrounding engagement, going through the process of planning a wedding and all those things. Once we were in his apartment, and once we decided like, yeah, let's get married. I remember no rings or anything. He got down on his knee and like officially asked me for my hand in marriage. And I so appreciate that because I wasn't expecting that. I was just like, all right, bet, let's go ahead and make it do what it do. And I so appreciated that pause and that moment for him to say, well, I'm officially asking for your hand in marriage. And of course, it was a yes. Went to the courthouse and, did all the things. Went to a reverend, a Baptist reverend, because my pastor wasn't available. And we entered into covenant, holding hands in the office of Reverend whoever he was.
Wow. And now give
so
me
we
the time.
we were in a relationship for 30 days. We got engaged, and we were engaged for 30 days only because I had to go to Bamako, Mali for my job. And then when I got back, we were married. So
Wow.
Interesting.
back to like pop, pop, pop.
I feel like, so it was
This
like,
happened within the year
yeah, within like
2005.
2005. So we meet in like February. We're friends for like 5 to 6 months.
August hit. That's
Then Katrina
Katrina.
happens. I fly up, and within like a month or so, we're like in a relationship, and within like another whatever, we're engaged, and then I think
By
like December,
December,
yeah, we was married.
yeah,
Oh, wow. With
It's
all
been on
within
and
a
popping.
year.
ever since.
Oh, wow. And you guys have been married for how long now?
I don't know.
That's 18 years.
18 years.
Yeah, 18 years. I think we around there.
Yeah,
If
like
I
18.
if I did the math, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
18
So
years going strong.
that is really, so when you said that you worshiped, and out of your worship, the Holy Spirit unctioned you to speak his name. That is interesting because traditionally we're taught that women, we don't know. The Lord doesn't tell us who our husband is, right?
Right.
And it
Right.
was hard for me to grapple with that myself. Because I'm like, I don't think the Lord is going to tell me who my husband is. I don't know. But I had a sister, one of my close friends, she was like, what the Lord told her. And I really thought to me, I'm like, this is hard for me to comprehend this thing. But the more that I grow in God and the more that I hear of how he uses other people, or how he is instrumental in the lives of other people, I'm like, God, this is beautiful, because you do. There's nothing that you won't do. And so I think for the ladies that are listening, and look, for me too, it's encouraging that we can go to God and ask God, hey, God, who is it that you have for me?
I think it's imperative, especially so long as we're sober-minded about it, you know what I mean? And so long as we're not in a place of desperation, because God he was my priority. He was on the throne seat of my heart. And there was no mistake about it, but I also desired marriage strongly, but going to him, getting everything from him, everything we need, we can get from him, and he will reveal, and he always has. And he had to be the center of our marriage, because we weren't sexually intimate or anything like that prior to going into, like, we did it right. And I think that was also like important and instrumental to like the health of the marriage, because marriage is going to have all the things that just is marriage, right? When you cause two separate lives, two different backgrounds, two different histories, and all that. Like, when we come into marriage, we literally like our lives collide in so many ways. And sometimes I think in that collision, like, the collision is a beautiful collision, but it can also be messy too. And with God being in the center of it, us not taking sexual sin into the marriage, I think that played such a critical role in us being able to like navigate a lot of the things that we would have to experience within marriage. We went into marriage also wanting to be students of marriage. Like, I wanted to have a healthy, thriving, I didn't want to have like a contract situation. I didn't want to be like having to put on the face of joy and happiness. I wanted to actually like my husband. I wanted to like actually like want to be around him and enjoy his presence and all the things. And that happens because of the center, like God being in the center of our marriage. But we definitely had a whole lot of stuff that we had to navigate, in our I would say our journey to oneness, our journey in becoming one. That, I feel like the main difference for me in my mind is our differences is what caused that friction in trying to become one. But yeah, I feel like God will absolutely tell you, especially if he can trust you with that information.
So something that came to mind for me is I think I don't, this is not like whatever, but I think God was able to tell you that because I was already in place.
Now that's good.
I know,
You know what I mean? Like, you can get instruction, because if the dude isn't ready, what's the point in God telling you?
That's good stuff.
That's good. I know, right?
Lena, that's good, because that is true. Because when I think about from what you have said, the foundation, I always tell people that come to in the office, I'm like, the foundation is friendship. Because we don't divorce our friends. Like, I don't divorce my girlfriends. It's like, we're gonna fight for this girl. You ain't going, we in it, we stuck like Chuck. That's just it. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to have that foundation going into a marriage. Like, I understand that. I've gotten that revelation. Without the friendship, what are you fighting for?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you said, I want to like my spouse. I don't want to tolerate my spouse, and I don't want my spouse tolerating me. I think that's good. So like you said, the foundation, and God deals with foundations. You know, he talks about gotta have that firm foundation. So I want us to get into, though, the difficulties that you talk about, because I get women sometimes that come into my office and they're like, I don't want to do this no more. I'm done. I'm out of here. And I'm like, why? Why aren't you wanting to fight? What's the, you know, and some of the things that they say, I'm like, girl, really?
Like,
I've
I've been
understand
there.
what's out here?
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there a couple of times in the midst of, I just remember in the midst of our conflicts, change not really taking place in him, right? In certain aspects. And we'll have to try and get specific, but just high level, I just recall moments where I just felt like I'm just spent. I'm just spent. And I remember having to get to a point where the D word, divorce, I have to remove it from my vocabulary. I have to remove it from being a back door. I have to remove it from being an option. Because it just is what it is. But it was very hard in those times. And I want to say, I think maybe 2 times where I seriously contemplated divorce and having, you know, I remember thinking about like the shame of divorce and having to deal with, all that comes with, a divorce. And am I really ready for that? And I wasn't really ready for it. But like, once I make up my mind, then it just is what it is. I'll power through and, make it do what it do.
Like a bomb.
Because he was always stable. He was never okay with divorcing. He was never okay with me leaving. But I'm an avid advocate of, like this, separation unto reconciliation. I feel like it was me removing myself, and what I like to say, taking the benefit of my presence, the benefit of me being around, for him to really, like, I don't know what was going on with you, but like, the purpose of me separating myself was also to heal and to deal and to whatever I needed in the moment to stop continuing to come up against the issues that kept rubbing me. I needed to remove myself from that. But the idea wasn't to separate so that we can then move to divorce. The idea is to separate so we can take care of what needs to be taken care of, so we can come back and reconcile. That's my, and I feel like that was the last. That's what happened when I went down to DC. I don't remember what the problem was when I went down to DC. I was staying with my dad.
Okay.
Because a lot of issues, I think, early on was you were modifying your behavior as opposed to like just changing. But a lot of also our issues was how I perceived our issues, because him being so different from me, we're literally polar opposites in so many different ways. I saw our differences as deficiencies, like his deficiencies, and he wasn't deficient necessarily, or maybe a little bit, but it was my inability to allow him to just be who he was and to accept him for who he was and allow him to evolve into the man that he's going to be, as opposed to the idea that I had in my mind, or how I feel like it should be done. You know what I mean? I would dare say, first maybe 3 to 4 years of our marriage, he lived in a loveless marriage because I didn't understand respect. I didn't understand accepting him as a man. I grew up without a father, so I didn't understand none of the things that come with having a male presence in the home, personality, temperament, what's typical of men. Like, I didn't have that foundation. He was my first experience with that, having to unlearn and relearn, and all of that there, but a lot of his differences, I took them as deficiencies, and that was wrong.
Well, somebody's asking a question. They want to know, did you communicate that to him, that you want separation just to get yourself together, or for you guys both to get yourselves together to regroup, is what she's asking. Did you communicate that to him?
I'm pretty sure I did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure
I just didn't agree with it principally. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm gonna paint with a broad brush, but as a man, like, I'm committed. So it's just like, where you going? You know what I mean? Like, what you need to leave for? Why are you going somewhere? But I came to understand, like, an example that she used a few times is she was like you're like a porcupine,
Yeah.
and me being close to you is constantly causing me pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to be away from this pain that's being caused. It's also me being an introvert, what I would translate to being not people centric. I'm not people centric. So it's like, uh, I'm not as versed in being sensitive to other people because I typically don't surround myself with other people. So me kind of going about my day when she's hurting, and me kind of like waiting for her to be open to talk, because in every sense I'm a gentleman, you know what I mean? It's like, if you don't want to talk, then I ain't gonna force you to talk. All right, I'll go chill somewhere else. We can be quiet.
And that will bother me because I'm like, you the one who messed up. You need to be pursuing me. Like, you need to be pursuing, like, not in a sense of just
Running behind you, get the door slammed.
It's not that.
It's not
But just like
dysfunctional like that.
Yeah, not dysfunction, but just like having a heart for, like, I know you're in pain, and I know that I helped to cause that pain. I need you to know that I'm here. Whenever you're ready to talk about it, I want to talk about it. As opposed to this just hands off, like, well, whenever you're ready to talk about it, like, like, especially being already in pain, like already hurting. You know, so yeah. So again, it was because existing, like, just existing can be painful also when there's conflict, acting like everything is fine, and I'm the kind of person early on, well, for years actually, where if there's an issue, you're going to know I'm not happy-go-lucky, I'm not jolly, I'm not happy, I'm not joyous, I'm not my normal self. You're going to feel the coldness of where I'm at right now. And that it took me some time to, like, I was on the end of the spectrum. It took me a few years after having conversations with him to kind of come closer to the middle. I don't got to go over to the other end of the spectrum, but just come a little closer to the middle, because he still needed me to be loving. He still needed me to have some kindness towards him. He still needed me to be warm. His love language is physical touch. To still touch him, to let him know that, like, we beefing, but I still love you. I'm still here. And it took a while for me to get there, because we beefing and we beefing.
So let me ask you, because it's from my standpoint, what I'm hearing is more so you guys were having problems with just the communication piece. You communicated differently, because what I've been saying is, like, okay, when you're ready to talk, and you talk, and for women, we don't like that. We really do we need you to be a little more sensitive. So when did you discover that was something you needed to do more of?
I don't know about when, but I recall vividly a moment where we had had a conflict or something like that, and I was down in the basement. She may have gone upstairs and like slammed the door or something. And in my mind, I was just like, well, I won't bother you then. You stay up there with that door closed. It's something in me, again, being an introvert, is like, I don't need to talk to you. Like, that ain't hurting me. You go up and slam the door, I'll be fine. But then the conviction in Ephesians, it says, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And it's like, and gave himself up for her. So it's just like, I know what my wife has expressed to me that she likes. I know what makes her feel loved. I know she doesn't want, even though she needs space, I know she doesn't want to be left alone. She doesn't want to feel like she's forgotten or uncared for. So then I just have to like switch into like, okay, let me go up and, do whatever I need to do, like whether that's sitting next to her on the bed, bringing some tissue, um, apologizing for the impact that my actions have had, just being present. So I don't know if I can kind of pinpoint when, but I know the situations. Like once she told me, I'd like to say that I got it instantly, but I don't know if I got it instantly. I just got it at some point.
Hmm. That's really good. And it's something I want to touch back on because I didn't ask you this. Ivan, when did you discover that you wanted to be a husband? That was your wife, and did you get this same revelation? Did God speak to you, or did you just feel it in your heart?
So, oh, I feel like I was always kind of looking for intentionality in all things. I hate to keep harping on the introvert point, but as much as she's a textbook extrovert, I'm like a textbook introvert. You know what I mean? I want like meaningful conversations. I don't like being around a whole lot of people. It drains me. I'm not antisocial. I can be social, but if I have my preference, like, nah, I don't want to go. I'm gonna chill at home by myself. So it was always about intentionality with all relationships. So romantic relationships were the same. So I wanted something serious. I had entered into a space where I was being celibate, not necessarily solely from a spiritual standpoint, but that certainly had something to do. I've been like God aware pretty much my whole life, is how I like to say, growing up in
Mhm.
church and things like that. Um, so that was a piece. And I'm also like a knowledge guy. Like if I know something, it's hard for me to differentiate from what I know. I don't have like a disobedience issue. So I knew I shouldn't be out here wilding. So I was like chilling. I also didn't really like the uncertainty of having like multiple partners and trying to please like different women, and all of that came along with that. So I knew that I wanted something very intentional. As it relates to the revelation, I think that I was always seriously interested in her. Like I like to say I was smitten. I was like smitten from day one, like seriously smitten. So she was instantly the kind of woman that I would like to marry. Like I'd like to spend my life with. And I don't know if I had arrived at that understanding while we were friends, because I'm also like a step by step person. So if I can't get past the first step, then it's like, okay, well, I'll just chill. I know I'm interested and I'll just live in this space. And I remember when I guess I was always open to it. And when she said Ivan is your husband, I was like, I'm already aligned with that. Like you tripping. But if you feel like that's that dude over there, that's crazy, but okay. I remember talking to my mom, like, man, she said that to me. And I wasn't the most like spiritually aware guy or anything like that. I like to say I was Jesus aware. You know what I mean? It's like I had a cultural relationship. Like um I don't know how to explain it, but it's like in my youth, I met her when I was 22. I'm coming off of like a Baptist background, not
Mhm.
necessarily being encouraged to read the word for yourself, not necessarily being encouraged to study and worship and
Well,
so on and
no.
so forth.
Where I
Yeah,
come
yeah.
from.
So I like to differentiate that period of time in my life from being intentional, because it wasn't intentional, it was casual. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I just feel like I was always open to it. And when there was an opportunity for her to be open to it, because so what happens is a lot of times, like I have the gift of wisdom. When I was a kid, I heard the account of Solomon, and I was like, God, give me wisdom, and he gave it to me. So it's like what some people need God to say to them, I don't need God to say to me. You know what I mean? So it's like an
Wow, that's
interesting
good by
thing.
itself.
I
That's a
know,
good book.
right? That hit
If
me.
y'all taking notes, y'all need to take that because that was some revelation. Because when you ask for it, he shall give. I ain't got to go to the Lord for this because he done already gave it to me.
He already gave it.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah,
That's a good.
what?
Look, us that are single, we need to be. He is dropping some jewel. He is giving us the insight of what a man, man. Y'all, Because what we are dealing with now in 2023, 2024, I'm telling you, they're nothing like this. We are out here and we are discovering. So because what I like about you guys' story is that, oh my gosh, it's just so much. And everybody's on here. I wish you guys could see the comments because they're loving your story, right? Because this is something that God has created from the beginning, and this is how God wants it to be.
Right.
So when we understand that, hey, this is what we have to do individually, and then when we come together, we understand, we get to a place where we understand that there's some things that we still need to work on individually in order for us to operate as a unit. A lot of times people don't want to do the individual work.
Right.
They want to pass the blame off. They go back to the garden and it was her, it was him, type thing. And they don't understand that we come with our own set of backgrounds, our own set of, how we do things, how we think, and how we move, and it can be hard. It can be hard. I might leave my cabinet doors open, and somebody might come behind me and can't stand. Is that see? But it's simple things. But for a person, it irritates them. I mean, I have a friend. It irritates her to high heaven, and that's just my friend. She, hey, coming over here, you live, and I'm like, okay. But in a marriage where you have to live with somebody, and it's something small, so I think it's wonderful, and
adds up.
Adds up. It adds up. It gets to a place. I had a couple one time, and to me on the outside, I'm like, what? This is crazy. But she was upset because she wanted him to do something, a vacuum or something. He wasn't helping her clean. So she said, I stopped washing his clothes. So they were having the biggest, like, I don't want to be here. We can. And I'm like, this is crazy.
Because it's a snowball. There's a whole lot of stuff up under that rug when you get to that point.
And it came out. And it ended up coming out. But again, it was because of the lack of communication. And so when we're friends, even though you have to learn how to communicate with your partner once you guys move in, and because people want the marriage, they want the ceremony, but they don't understand the marriage comes after the ceremony.
Right.
The
You don't really know what's in store.
Yeah. No, because now this is a lifetime with you. Like we ain't, I don't have my own place. You don't have your own place.
One of the things that really helped was first knowing that God ordained this. So when the D word came up, knowing that God ordained this, it helped me to hold on. But also, like, from the very beginning, like the very first book we received, whenever like the day or two after we entered into covenant, my best friend at the time, she brought us the book, His Needs, Her Needs. And that was what launched us into studying, because he ain't never been married, of course, but he comes from a 2-parent household, where his parents were married. I come from a single parent household, you know what I mean? But it's not like, but they didn't have a wonderful, perfect marriage either. So we're entering into covenant with no idea as to how we want to work this thing out, or what is this first, you know what I mean? Let alone working it out. So we just started investing in, like, reading the His Needs, Her Needs, sacred marriage. What if God made, what if marriage is to make you holy rather than to make you happy? Being able to understand the whole purpose and intention behind marriage. Shanti Feldhahn and her For Men Only, and then the book for Women Only. That was the revelation that I came to receive whenever I didn't know that I wasn't respecting him. Because we know, wives, respect your husband. Why? And so, I know that intellectually, but I wasn't walking it out in my marriage, and I had no idea that I wasn't. And it wasn't until reading that book that I realized that I wasn't disrespecting him, but that didn't mean I was respecting him either. So I had to learn that. Bunny, where she has liberated through submission, learning what submission actually looks like. What is biblical submission? Like having, and then all the podcasts at the time, Focus on the Marriage, I think it was. Tony and his wife Evans, You know, so like really surrounding ourselves with resources, because there was nobody that we could touch to help us in marriage, or at least nobody that we knew, you know, when we left DC and we were kind of in transit. So that, like, getting that information, you know, it helped, because we're hearing like very specific situations and very specific examples, and how to navigate, like the mistakes that they made and their failures, and what they should have done, what they could have done when they did win and when they were thriving, what that looked like. It helped to kind of put some teeth to, you know, reality, especially the reality that we wanted. And we had 10 years of marriage before children came into the picture. And so and all that is God ordained also. Not a movie story, but beautiful nonetheless. And so even in our parenting journey, because at every turn there's this need for God, you guide, you lead, we're yours. And I wasn't even healed emotionally. You know, the father one, I wasn't even healed until 2011, 12. But I at least knew, I need you, I need your guidance, I need your hand, I need your wisdom, so on and so forth, you know. Like we don't have to be out here flailing within our marriage. We don't have to, we can choose to, we don't have to though.
Yeah.
And
I want to ask you a question because
the tough reality is, man, I could be wrong, but I feel like not everybody wants a dope marriage, and not everybody's gonna have a dope marriage because of what they put in and what they're willing to do, what they're willing to work on. And that saddens me, because it's just like,
because it's dope.
man, jeez. But go ahead, you say you had a question.
I do, because one thing, and I have two. One big thing that comes up that is a common thing that I've talked to when I'm speaking to men is the honoring part, and you mentioned that. I want you to describe what were you doing before, and then what did you discover that you needed to do that you
So
weren't doing.
did you say honoring? Is that what I heard?
Yes,
Okay. I'm not sure I follow the question. Give me
Wait, is that for me or for him?
yes, it's for you, for you.
Bill?
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
what was the question again? I'm sorry.
You mentioned about you discovered that you wasn't honoring, you wasn't dishonoring, but you
Or
wasn't honoring.
respecting or disrespecting.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
So what was it? Like how,
What's the difference? Like,
what was it? Oh, what was the difference?
what changed? And, okay.
Before I can't come up with the specific examples, but I want to talk about the heart. The heart of it, underneath it, was I didn't accept Ivan for who and how he was. I saw him for who and how I felt like he should be, based on my understanding of, you know, biblical manhood and husbanding and so on and so forth. Um, so whenever I looked at him, I didn't see him and how he moves and how he navigates and how he processes information and why he does the things that he does. I just saw what I felt like I needed him to be, or what I wanted him to be. And so because of that, because I didn't accept him, I didn't really know him, so that I could love him and so that I could respect and honor him. So it wasn't until I was able to really like sit back and get rid of my ideas of who he is, who he ain't, who he should be, and so on and so forth, and allow him to just be me. Then I was able to like see him, like I actually like saw my husband, like, oh, that's why. And then like the dots would begin to connect, and this is over time. I do have one example, because he's a thinker, I'm a doer. And so we were bringing in a large piece of furniture. I don't remember what it was, but we were bringing in a large piece of furniture, and we had to come upstairs and bring it to the room. And we got it into the door, and now I'm ready. I'm like, let's go ahead and we'll just figure it out as we go along. And I remember seeing him, you know, stand back and lean up against the wall, and he actually began to process and think through how we could navigate and turn this piece of furniture to go upstairs seamlessly. Usually I would have been like, come on, let's go. We could just figure it out. You know what I mean? And if something breaks, I would, you know what I mean? And in that moment, I ain't saying, I saw my husband. I saw who he was. I saw what he was doing. And I just sat there quietly. I gave him the space that he needed to process through. And whenever like he was done, you know, it's like he came alive. He was like, all right. And in that moment, I remember being led. Like I allowed my husband to just lead me. I didn't suggest nothing. And we brought that thing up here so seamlessly through the you know, it was like we didn't have no issues, you know, got it over the baby gate and everything. And I would just and because of that, I was able to not only was able to see him because I accepted him, I saw him, and I was able to, I loved that. I respected it. And I honored that. You know what I mean? It's like there was a sense of reverence. And so that's just like a small example of like everything that I needed to start doing, like how he how he does everything. Like,
It's like, how can you respect someone you don't accept?
yeah,
It's
Come
almost
on now.
impossible. You can't.
right.
You don't,
Come
it's like
on.
you don't accept me. I can't. How you?
And you're working tirelessly, trying
Yeah.
to, you know, you're modifying your behavior on, I don't want to call them whims, but you're modifying your behavior, trying to, when really it was me. Like I needed to see you for who you are, how you are. And my love became deeper.
Now, y'all, now she done said a whole mouth. If y'all did not get that as women, let me tell you, if y'all did not get that as women, if you're looking to be married, if you are married, if you did not get that, because one of the biggest things I have heard from men that have been married, are married, been divorced, they are saying that's the key. They're like, women don't respect us. Women
And
don't
that's
honor us. Women don't accept us for who we are. That is the biggest thing. And you know, that is beautiful we said, Dale, because guess what? That is true. If you ever had, and when you said that you had, you were still dealing with father issues, me having a father, I honored my daddy. Like I honored him. I honored him when he came into the home. I waited for him at the door. When he would come in, I knew he wanted ice water. And so I learned from a little girl how to honor because he was the breadwinner. He went out, he made sure we were good. He made sure bills were paid. Even when we had very little, we did not know. It was, you know, I honored him. So for me, it's like you honor those who love you, who cover you, and you accept them for who they are. The acceptance piece is really, really key to it because we a lot of the times people want to change the other person, and it's like you don't get to do that.
right.
You don't
Right.
get to do that.
Yeah. We marry, I feel like when we get married, I feel like husbands, men, typically they've chosen you. They are okay with where you are, who you are. They have accepted you. You are on their team. They want to spend their life with you, whether you change or not. Not that they don't want us to evolve and grow, but you're good the way that you are right now. Whereas for at least for me and generally speaking, broad brush painting, um, we can oftentimes fall into marrying potential. And so we, besides, outside of the fact that I had the word of the Lord behind me, um, you know, I never saw him for who he was, where he was when I married him. I saw his potential and I wanted that. And so I'm constantly grasping for his potential. And I had eventually years went by, unfortunately. And so we're grappling within marriage in some ways, but it's kind of like stop grasping for the potential of who he will and shall be. We'll get there. He'll get there because he's God's son. God got him. God will get him there. He'll use you and your influence, sure, in some ways, but God got him. And so now, 18 years in, I can say that I'm living in the potential that I saw back then. But those first few years was a struggle because I'm, you know,
And also, it's funny, we talked about this many, many times throughout our marriage. A lot of times people like to think of themselves as good people because they want to see their spouse improve. But it's selfish because you want them to improve for
for your
you,
benefit.
not necessarily for them. And I feel like that you're not a good person.
was me.
There may be some mixture in there, but it's selfish. It really is. It's like, I want you to have a better job, and why don't you pursuing this career? And why can't you work out more? And it's like, that's about you. Like, let's keep it a buck.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. That was me.
And that's good. Or I think one of the famous lines that women like to say is, if you just need to listen to me. If you just listen to me, you know, and it's like, no, that man's a whole man. Maybe you just need to listen to him.
A whole man.
And you want to be, you over here talking about you was tired of being single. Now you got a man, you're married, and now you want to be the leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Or want him to think like you.
Yeah.
And when he don't think like you, it's a problem. I've been in situations where people, like women, will ask me what I think, and I'll let them know, like, okay, maybe you should try communicating it like this. And they would never do that. It's like, and they're like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I know how, again, painting with a broad brush. It's like what you're saying is probably not going to be received well. So you may want to try and say it like this. And I feel like that was a lot. I was actually just thinking about this, like either this morning or yesterday, because Dell used to give me a hard time. She would say, I hate the fact, or I don't like the fact that you don't hear me until I'm crying.
Yeah.
And I was jokingly in my mind, like, you don't speak clearly until you cry. Like, that stuff you say before you cry don't make no sense. But when you like in your emotion, like the raw, like hurt, I feel like you speak directly to, like, you know what? I'm tired of this. Can't keep moving like this. You have to figure out how to change this behavior. Versus like before the tears, it's like, well, what made you think that was okay? And I'm like, oh, of course I thought it was okay. I wouldn't have did it if I wasn't okay with it. So it's like the communication style changes based on, at least for what I can experience. I think that the communication is clearer in those moments. I don't think she would ever agree with that, but
Don't, because I feel like the like being pushed at that point of tears, like that emotion, I feel like he's softened now because he recognizes like, oh snap, well, here she goes. You know what I mean? Whereas before, especially in our communication, like when I'm trying to express to him what specifically I'm having a problem with, he's very technical. And so he's talking to me about how I said it and what I said and what the words were that I used. And now he's disagreeing with what I was saying. And, it's like all of this other stuff, as opposed to us talking about like the sentiment of my heart. There's been plenty of times when I was like, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like, do you understand the sentiment? Do you get the message of, you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of going back and forth in our conversation because of the dynamics of who we are, but also because of our personality and temperament. And you're fighting to get this to make progress in this conversation because you brought something to his attention and you need him to, like, can we talk about this thing? And and it's like after a while, it's just like, man.
But even still, I feel like you're fighting to keep your communication style while telling me I need to change my understanding style. And it's like,
No.
I'm processing through what you're saying in the way in which I'm processing through it. Let me get it out. And the reason, the takeaway in all of this, outside of just Ivan Dell, is this place that we got to when it was really like important. I feel like she would just open a conversation where like, I just need you to try and hear my heart, like hear the heart of what I'm saying versus focusing on the technical. And the beautiful thing about that is that's a situation where you understand who you're married to. And if you don't understand who you're married to, then you can't make those kind of accommodations because you are set on what you want to communicate versus setting the atmosphere for the person to be able to receive it in the best way possible.
Right. That was good.
That's really good. That's really good because you do have to know the person and how they communicate. And I understand completely, Dale, because I have a daughter that is like that, so I understand. Thinker down to the period, the comma. Well, that word should have been over here, and when you said it like that, it changed the whole meaning of it. And I'm like, can you take trash out? That's all I need you to do. I understand. So what advice would you guys leave with us on tonight? Look, we are gonna have to have you back too. We have to have a
Right,
part
that was
Yes,
bad.
please. We love these conversations. We,
but what kind of advice would you give us, ladies, for dating? What should we look for, especially in today's culture? Because it's so, I always say, take me back to the 90s, because look, the 90s,
yeah, yeah, it was different. I hear like the dating pool has pee in it.
it
That's
does,
what they say.
it
Even
does.
before I get into the advice, I want to encourage um ladies and also men who are seeking like real relationships and finding their prospects limited in some capacity or another. You only have to get it right once. And I think a lot of times when we look at our failures, our failure to find what we're looking for, we can get discouraged. But really, that's what all of our lives are leading up until we find the right person. It's not getting it right. It's not finding the right fit. So you only got to get it right once. That's just, and then it's like, put the work in and enjoy the benefits of having put the work in.
Mhm.
So what advice would you give? I don't know if I have.
Um, I would start off with just from my own experiences, like you have to involve God in more ways than like just culturally speaking or on the surface. Like you have to desire. I would recommend desire what He desires for you. That's what I wanted. You know who I am. You created me. You know my inner workings. God, I desire the husband or the wife that you have for me. Um, I feel like still keep your standards, but recognize that, like, are you being reasonable and realistic as it relates to what it is that you see for yourself? Um, in preparation, again, making sure God is on the throne seat of your heart, because He's not going to give you your husband if He knows that your husband can dethrone him. It's like, well, you're not really ready then.
Mm.
So having God be and maintain on the throne seat of your, because you may struggle a little bit, but it should be easy for you to get back. You know what I mean? Make sure that the marriage relationship will not dethrone God from the throne seat of your heart. Um, yeah, I mean that's as far as like pursuing or even desire. Like it's okay to desire it, and I feel like expect him to answer. Like instead of just praying and miss, like expect to hear him. At least I would. Yeah, for for my single ladies and single men who would be desiring marriage. Yeah. Because there's things I want to say to people who are married, but we're not there yet. What would you say?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Um, to prepare, I guess to really just be a student of it. I think the God piece is the most important, right? We sometimes we skip over that. It's like being in a jet stream where God can propel you forward. And when you start to like get out of that jet stream, like you open yourself up to all types of stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it to be out
Yeah.
here in these streets trying to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
Because I it's important to put God first. And what I mean by that is doing the things that are important to your faith. And I just want to be practical. It's like, are you reading your word? You know what I mean? Are you allowing it to wash over you and to renew your mind
Mhm.
and aligning yourself with what biblical womanhood is? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's like, are you in community with people of like-minded interests so that they could tell you, you know what, when you was like in that parking lot and you was getting all upset, you may want to reflect on that.
Mhm.
We don't have those kind of relationships with people. I feel like community is so
Yeah.
important because something you said earlier about like not divorcing your friend, it's like, well, does your friend even like you? Not you specifically, but it's like we have to develop relationships where it's like people are honest with you, loving, kind, caring, but still honest. We have to seek and run after those kind of relationships. So it's like community is important, your word is important, and prayer is important. It's
Mhm.
just like point blank, period.
Yeah. The basic tenets of the faith.
You can't go wrong with that. And then it's like be intentional about uh becoming a good wife, being a good wife, being
Mhm.
intentional about consuming information that will help. I mean, like people who are in your faith, not just like the world standard for what it
Yeah.
means to be a good wife. I mean, yeah, you could find some wisdom in there every now and then, but just make sure you are guarding yourself as it relates to that. And then I think that's the best, because again, you only have to get it right once. You only have to be seen as appealing to one guy who is your husband. You only have to have God revealed to that guy, like, that's you over there. You need to go get after that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
just like it's just one time. That's it. And then you can live on in your forever.
But when you connect, like, no sex, just point blank, period.
You might as well go with that standard.
Yeah.
Because again, like I said earlier, some people they don't want the best. And you see it in their action. And it's like, your actions don't tell me you want the best. It's like, if you want to save up for a car, but you spending your money every weekend, how you gonna get the car? Like, are you really committed like you read about?
Mm.
So we have to be honest with ourselves about what we're willing to do, what we're willing to pursue. And then hopefully we can come to terms with where we end up at. You know what I mean? Because of the work we didn't want to put in.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think a lot of women,
sobering.
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of women are becoming so desperate that they are allowing men to, or they're just giving themselves up just in hopes of it might work out. And I'm like, the more you
Mm.
give yourself up, the more that you're wasting
Yeah.
time. You're giving parts of yourself away, the best parts of you. And then by the time perhaps he does come, you're going to be so damaged, because you have to get to a place where you can allow God to wash all of that away from you.
Mhm. And he will too.
He will. I think this is good. Yeah, I could go on and on. I'm just sitting
Me
here
too.
in my mind, like, I want to ask this, I want to ask this, but I really did enjoy y'all. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all are like my new family now. So
Yes. I got so many. You are Miss Pastor Dr. Bree.
that Crystal, she puts that on me, and I'm in school, so we just pray for me, because I said school is the devil. Just give me them letters.
Yes.
Oh, but yeah, so but yeah, I really did enjoy y'all. I do want to have you guys
Likewise.
back again if you would. I'm sure I'm looking at the comments, and they're
Absolutely.
they're loving
Because
it.
there's so much more. Like, there's so much more that I didn't get a chance to touch on. Of course,
Yeah.
I would want to touch on it. He's like, if we do, we do. We don't, we don't.
Thanks so much
Yeah.
for having us. We
Thank you
had a
for
good time
having
as
us.
well.
Yes.
You're welcome again.
And I can't wait for the next time.
Oh yeah, look, I'm getting ready to. Well, Crystal's behind the scenes, so she's gonna get a date for us and get it locked in, 2 or 3 dates. Cause I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. We with it. We with it.
and I love it. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it because I'm like, wow, this is good. This is good. So I want to tell everybody, thank you for joining us on tonight. Wow, if you guys have enjoyed it, I want y'all to tune in. And let us. Well, for one, I want you to take time to share it. If y'all liked it, share it to as many people as you can. Share it to your girlfriends, your mamas. Look, because we got some grandmamas on here that need to hear this. But that's for another day. But again, I love everybody. Remember that I love you, and I'm always praying for you. And we will meet again, hopefully in the near future, another Friday night at the same time. But we will let everybody know again. Love you and thank you.